Okay, we'll get started here. The roll call, Chet Wade, present, Sean Levine,
Here.
Brad McKibben, and Lisa Herman here. Okay, all others on pending are not, Mr. Quealy, myself, Mr. Woolley are here from your staff side. Citizens' comments, let's see any over here. Bob from over at the adjoining building of South Garage was supposed to stop in, so if he rolls in, we'll cut back to him.
Dr. Franks or
Forget his last name. I think he's come the last two times maybe. Approval of our July minutes. Shouldn't say when it was warmer, probably close to the temperature of the July meeting. Anything anybody see, changes, comments? Or a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes will be approved as presented here. January meeting, is everyone still okay with the same format of the, last Thursday? And after that, I believe it'll jump into the restructuring. We'll be darn near close to, however that process unfolds. So because we'll be advertising that, just for one meeting, but we still have to advertise it, do everything that we have to do on that end.
While we're talking about that, do we have a list of how it's going to be? Because I would imagine I would roll off at that point. It's been almost 8 years at this point.
I believe so. There was some more information that either came out this week or is being final drafted, like very shortly, as to who from each board may be asked to come over, and I'm sure it's based on how new you've been or however their metric is for that. But I'll let you know what that future looks like. But my understanding is if you're on the board now, I think, and if you're not selected to be joined into the new mobility group, that you go right back into the normal applicant process to join a board or a new board that's formed that might be of interest to you. So I think, but I'll put that on my homework to send out here tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, because that I know took over for somebody's term and I've been 2 additional terms. So
Yes.
I think by the bylaws I've got to fall off it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, when did you say we would find out?
I think I have all that info for tomorrow. So I should send all that, I'll send all that out to everyone tomorrow. I swear I saw something buried in emails about this today, so I will uncover. Any new member business, parking lots, meters, charge stations, anything come to mind, come up or anything?
just to bring to this board's attention, we have installed new single space meters at Beverly Road to replace the IPS MK3 versions. Those were purchased in like 2009. They've exhausted their useful life, and the company is no longer supporting that generation of single space meters. So we went with Flowbird, which is the same vendor that has the pay stations. We've installed them on the Beverly Road. There's a couple hiccups along the way, but we should be seeing they're a little bit different, so there's a learning curve, but so far so good. So
And they're already up and running?
yes, we installed them on the 26th of September. So
Okay, anything else, Sean, ever on your end?
Nothing parking, just all those things they've installed on the roundabouts and what have you on this side of town. Everybody's all up in arms with, and people are just driving right over them now. So
Yeah, there's a Facebook forum called Lebo Complaints. You guys saw, yeah, it's hilarious. I mean,
Yeah.
People get used to them though, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
They're not smacking them like they were.
That was a little bit of a miss, I think, by not communicating that out to the residents, because everybody that lives on this side that I talk to is pretty upset about them. And I know the residents around them were the ones that petitioned, but nobody knew until they came in, and now it's just become a big speed bump that people seem to be driving right over or making lefts when they shouldn't, trying to go the wrong way. It's a big mess.
Are you seeing any improvement, like people starting to get it? You know, because
No,
I'm still not getting it.
nope. I see people making left turns instead of going around. The other silly oblonged one at the end of by Overlook there is people do all kinds of weird stuff over there. And then you see the kids just going around in circles because they think that'll be fun. So,
Lovely.
yeah.
What did Gateway say to the commission? So you had Carl Walker put together that review of the South Garage,
Okay, yeah,
and then says Gateway's your official engineer, so I'm assuming they reviewed it and gave an opinion. What did they decide?
yes, we'll jump down into the maintenance updates here.
Did I miss? Oh, sorry. Maybe I did.
So we, based on that South Garage study report, over the past month, we've gone deck by deck with Gateway to take an approach that I'd say is not aesthetic by any means. You know, we're not looking to make sure that everything is fresh and painted on a structure that's, you know, gonna be down, you know, in the future. The main things we're concerned about with when we were walking was overhead spalls, places where the rebar's starting to rust out and pop sections of concrete that could impede pedestrian vehicle, anything like that. Also looking at water infiltration through a couple spots. We're starting to not lose some spots, but I know as usually our long-term parkers, our friends right next at 750 there, they're the ones that seem to find these spots because their cars are there for a couple days, you know, weeks if that, you know, they live over there. So we've had to cone off a couple spots, but most of the time it's like a live and learn and they figure out where not to look. So we're looking at possible short-term solutions for that to keep spots open. It's not impacting a lot of spots. But they're prime ones, to be honest. They're ones where you want to be by the elevator, you want to be by the exits, that type of thing. So aside from that, on the entrance ramp, there was a light pole we recently took down. The anchors that came up to support the light base were right where I believe an expansion joint for concrete, for a better term, should have been. So having a little bit of trouble there. We didn't want to see that kind of mounting give out and that light pole come down. So that'll be one of the repair areas that'll be sooner than not. So the focus is purely on safety and mainly the overhead use of the entire garage. So what we've done is went through, and the idea is we're gonna do an allotted service level of kind of a not to exceed for masonry repairs that our crews aren't able to do. Our guys certainly will continue to patch areas by hand, re-pour joints where it makes sense to, and flow the Sika products, you know, throughout there and do what makes sense for us to do, not in over our heads, you know, being a maintenance crew of 3 over there. So that's kind of what will be, you know, thrown at it maintenance dollar wise. We're not gonna be repainting, you know, walls in between parking levels. We'll continue to line stripe and refresh that because that to me is an essential function of a garage. So that's kind of short, is maintain the essential function of the garage throughout. So it'll be done in phases with kind of an estimated breakout of what we think we're gonna have to throw at it.
Has there any been consistency? It sounds like we're not looking for another 30 years out of the garage, correct?
Yeah, that's-
That's not what So one of the things is that they never wanted to put like a polyurethane coating on because of the cathodic protection.
Right.
Was there any consideration working from the top decks down, is putting on a similar material like we do at the north garage to keep that water penetration? Because it was always a thing that the cathodic protection needed to express the chloride gases, but
Yep, that's something that'll be in that package, because a lot of the drips and stuff, you know, are obviously from that top deck down.
Yep.
Second deck to three, that's where we see it the most. For the most part, the lower decks are pretty dry and maintenance wise, not much going on there, so. That'll be kind of the focus on there, but we will examine that coating, dollar wise to see if it, you know, makes sense throughout the estimated life, you know.
I watched some of the presentation online. and
Yeah.
My memory was the board seemed to be moving in the same direction our discussion was, that to keep it alive for a foreseeable future, but look at some replacement with perhaps some multi-function kind of thing. On that location, given the prime spot it is.
And I think the comp plan that information was gonna be useful for has got all that. I'm not sure how much of a tie-in there will be to that comp plan when it comes out. But it was, you know, considerable information for them to have. And to have that commission meeting with a consensus, you know, sort of given, I'm sure that gave them better direction than us just, you know, kind of firing the wind that we should do something, so. It's not a great answer to your question, I don't know if I did or not, but we're gonna maintain a service level where, yeah, that's where we'll go with that. As far as anything else throughout the garage, I'm not anticipating any large capital items as far as the elevator world and other, you know, big operations in there that would be like a real head scratcher of, do we have 5 or 10 years left, and does this $80,000 elevator repair make sense? You know, so that's, I believe on that end,
there may be one, I know that Andrew, we're at the parking, the parks equipment, the gates and stuff are probably at the end of their useful life, so I think that may very well be in the next year's budget or two.
and that's essential.
Yeah, we can't, no matter how long, you need a egress and ingress, so. Yeah, there is an idea of maybe going gateless, but there's still a technology with the ALPR for the entrance and exit, so. You know, sometimes maybe simple, stupid is the easier way to go, so.
Not trying to run anybody out of a job, but why is it attended? Why does the South Garage have an attendant so late at night?
Well. My philosophy and is that at some point. You need a presence for safety and maintenance in the facility,
Okay.
all right? Now, if we didn't have the cashiers, then we'd need a skilled laborer. And a replacement for that skilled laborer who would be full-time to be on vacation. The cashier is a more economical, that if something goes askew, they can make the calls to the appropriate people, whether it's Phil, me, the fire department, police department. And so there's a presence there. And the other thing is, if you're gonna charge for permits, then, you know, there needs to be some sort of control in there. And you know, my history with parking equipment is not infallible, and you need a presence there to physically open a gate before people drive through it, and now the problem's twice as bad. So it's always been more economic to pay a cashier who's making roughly $10 an hour or thereabouts to be there and be able to notify when things, and we've had some unfortunate events in the facilities where it was beneficial to have a presence there to notify the proper authorities. So that's always been the mindset, that it's either, because you're still gonna need somebody. The thing, and you're basically be paying even more in overhead of benefits, vacation, and then a replacement for somebody who would need to be full-time to address these issues in the garages, where we're paying somebody to, you know, vend transactions, and keep an eye on things, and is a good customer service, that somebody has a question, where's this, where's that, so it's multifunctional. It's an old school,
It's not something you see often, that's why.
right, it's
Everybody's got
sort of old school, but it works,
I do have a question, and this is not necessarily specific to the south garage, but I saw something that was a little bit surprising, and I saw some kids, I was coming through Washington after I dropped my daughter off at school, and they were walking along that kind of wide, like high wall. Which kind of like made my heart stop for a second, because I know how high that is and how far the drop would be. And just as I like stopped in my car and was gonna like, say, hey, get down, another mother, kind of like waved them down. But I was wondering if that's ever come up, because it is kind of like a wall. I've seen people sit on that wall. And I was wondering if it had ever come up, should we have like considered a higher fence or some deterrent, so there wouldn't be, somebody going over. I don't know if this ever came up in the history of this board or anybody discussed that, but because I saw someone on that wall, it made me think about it.
well, I mean, it's a known fact that parking garages are suicide destinations. They just, and there are things to inhibit it, and it is the
Yeah.
high fence. It's just never been found that was budgeted.
Yeah,
It's literally just putting a small link fence on the open deck. I don't know if solar
and this
panels.
is in that pathway, this isn't even this is going to the garage, so
Right,
this is
and
like
so-
right in between
Well,
this
it's
building.
anything that's, is accessible to,
Right.
a significant, height.
Yeah.
And that it gets about 50 feet by the end of the ramp.
I'd say it's close to that,
Yeah,
right,
so-
the connection.
Right,
Yeah,
and it only occurred to me because you've got a lot of kids walking around that area and.
I grew up, I was one of those stupid kids. And I shudder,
Yeah.
and I think it's like, you did what?
Yeah, so I
Going
just,
Up steps, how I ever managed to walk the parapet.
right, I didn't know if it ever came up, but only
We do have,
because.
the cameras do catch those areas, and the cashier is to be observant, especially at the north garage, if they see anybody hang out there to, notify the police that, because the loitering is
Right,
to investigate.
yeah, good point, I know we can't prevent everything, I
No,
just
but there are.
was curious if that ever came up.
Actually, the executive director of, I believe the Lancaster Parking Authority, or maybe been Allentown, it was no Lancaster, he's actually, has made presentations regarding, the dangers of having, the garages and the type of unfortunate
Open
events that,
structures.
of open structures. And so, he's actually someone in our own community, or at least the Pennsylvania Parking Association is, is sort of a renowned expert on it.
Yeah.
And I've got to talk to him on several things, and there are things to mitigate the problem, but it's just, has never been a budget item.
Understood.
It's other stuff just on the maintenance and the, and some lighting failures in Parsway. The under permit parking under there, and that can get quite dark just from 3 or 4 fixtures out. Sylvania had a bad run of ballast, or drivers inside of these LEDs that we swapped a couple years back. They started failing very quickly next to one another, like tic-tac-toe boards going out. So we just this past couple weeks ago rented a all-terrain lift. It's actually hard to get a lift that doesn't cut out on a safety because you're on an incline. Of course, all of the lights that are down there are not right where you want to change them. They're all on inclines and other spots like that. So between our electrician, our parking crew with the bucket truck and the lift, I think we have about 2 left to do that are from ladder height. So just a little thing that and it had been ongoing and quite a problem where we got some calls directed from some of the permit holders down below that. I'll just say it so that I think I get the same result as last year. Our equipment vendor's gonna come out tomorrow and train some of our newer employees on our snow removal equipment. After he did that last year, it never snowed. Coming out, he's coming out again.
Turn it down.
He's coming out again. So, our new employee Jordan needs run through on that equipment as well, that handles sidewalks, drops salt as you go, and kind of picks up those efficiencies we're kind of doing in other, kind of hard-nosed way with old cool shovels and buckets and stuff like that. So, we're gonna try and keep injuries down and all that with a crew of 3. And like Mark said, vacation, sick time, it's, we try to make sure that, if we can avoid an injury from better equipment and better processes that make a safer garage and walks for everyone, we'll continue to do that. I think that's all I really have on the maintenance end. The board restructure, so we're coming close to that. We have a January meeting and I think that might be it. I'm still finding out how if the January meeting is an actual one, and this is all the technical stuff, because you can't approve the minutes after if you're not there. I'm not sure how that will all go. I'm finding all this out. I'm sure it's questions that are getting asked across all of them. One thing to help staff give better direction and input on the mobility board. If you guys could email me what you think some of the goals and objectives have been with this group, no matter how long your time here. It's nothing that needs voted on or reviewed, or, if it, I'd like to hear from you guys and our planner, Ian McMeans, who's kind of wrapping all this information to help with this restructure. Would like to know as well going forward. So that can be 1 line, 2 lines. Even feel free to give me what you think your role might be if this board jumped right in tomorrow into the mobility board, and you were mixed with groups like sustainability, traffic, and I don't know if that's who all gets morphed together, but kind of think along those lines too, as to, you're all professionals in this field that have information that, is valuable, and we've used it for Beverly parking, chatting about the South Garage for a year leading up to it, talking about it after we got the information we needed. So think along those lines. That's something that we've been asked to do as staff, is get that back from you guys. That could simple as an email. Yeah, nothing real formal over onto that. Another thing our maintenance crew will be going around as we do punch list stuff with the streetscape, the Vibrant Uptown. Just so our staff is aware of, all those planter beds have drip irrigation lines. So they have to be winterized, started up in the spring, checked, and, make sure that we're aware how to do all that. The intent is to possibly put out a contract similar to our high visibility planter bed, one that we do through our Public Works Parks kind of division, and see if there's contractors that may want to look at season log maintenance package that would include startup and shutdown of that. But your own people need to know how to do it if we don't see any bids come in for that. So it's a very specialty thing, asking probably a landscaper to come and keep looking good flower beds and planters where you can't park. So logistically, how a landscaper would do that, I'm not sure. There's a couple off-street spots they could pull off, like Central Square, Alfred, but it's gonna be a lot of on-foot stuff, really. And safety, I'm sure, for them will be a big factor working right across there. We all know it's 25, but you could count on one hand sometimes that people go at 25. So not a direct impact to parking, but we do have beds outside the garages. I kind of, some of that stuff will fall on our 3 guys from time to time.
To maintain that?
Sometimes if,
Yeah.
if it's sort of like a right now thing, where, there's an incident or a, big spill of giant catered takeout menu on the sidewalk, like sometimes we'll just, things like that come up. So we holistically look at this whole corridor from garage to garage, south lot, and over, so. Guys right now are just concentrating on, leaf debris removal from surface lots, knocking back some of the landscaping throughout. Right now for, shorthanded once or twice, those guys will jump in leaf trucks, the giant dust boxes flying around town, we need a little bit of rain, not a lot, but a little bit helps with that. So that's what we're into at the current moment. Mark, I don't know if you have any staff updates or anything on the
Actually,
operations end.
just the only staff thing is that Mark McMonagle, who's been our meter enforcement person for the last 8 years, this was a late in life career change for him to become the meter enforcement, but he's been excellent. And he actually, on a secondary note, has been instrumental in the deployment of the Barnacle, which we use now instead of the Denver boot for immobilizing vehicles. And
How's it going? Has it been positive?
yes, it's been very good. We've had a much bigger uptick in the ability to get vehicles immobilized. And again, it's not punitive. We're just asking for compliance, but sometimes, you need to bring the stick with the carrot. And so we've had a lot of success. We got a slow, we had some issues, just familiarity and with it, and then just some staffing issues that we really couldn't kick it off the way we wanted to. But in the last 3 months, we've really taken advantage of the new technology.
So how do you gauge success on something like that? Is it that it's ease of use or better compliance or?
It is the ease of use because it actually eliminates one party. So we always have a vehicle report form, so you need the police there. But for the boot, we always needed the public works there as well. They're still filling as a backup in case there's a problem with the battery or something, but Mark will have it in the vehicle, and so when he comes across, he can start the process. And we're not pulling public works off of ladders in the south garage or fixing light bulbs to do this. He can just put it, once the officer comes, assesses the vehicle, writes up the report, he can deploy the device. And so we've made public works more efficient because we're not interrupting what their task for the day, and it's right there. And
How frequently do you have to use it?
we've been deploying about 3 a month. So, and that's usually, and typically an average, the average of outstanding ticket balances of $500 to $600. Some of them have been greater than that. And so, and one of the, effectiveness, is it measurable? No, but when some person who has a number of tickets of their own and they see something on somebody's car and sees what's that, like
It's an advertisement, so don't do this.
It's like maybe I should check on and see if I have any outstanding tickets. So that's good. But what initiated this is Mark announced that he's going to be retiring in March. And so I'm working with the HR department, which is also going to be going through a transition period too from Mount Lebanon. So, but unfortunately, when the collection position that I had to hire a year ago, that took 6 months to fill that position. I'm trying not to, I want to get a lead start on this, and there's enough that to do where the overlapping of a month or two of the two employees and training would be quite beneficial. So, it's not the handheld, there's a handheld device, which is a computer. There's a computer in the car, which is the ALPR system, and APIs, and making sure that, everything's communicating. So it's just not like picking up a ticket book anymore. So, but he's retiring, but he's happy. He's gonna go on to his next job, which is grandpa. So, so. But I'm hoping to find somebody who is as customer friendly and the very first day I trained him. We were walking through Central Square, somebody literally followed us around and berating us with profanity because he had gotten a ticket, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, and he just
So that's a
smiled.
good test because
Well,
you
it's a
see
very-
his demeanor on how he.
He probably handled it better than I did, but you know, again, it's, you know, they're actually the first line of, you know, of public relations for the community. And it's a very adversarial position, and, you know, if you don't have the right demeanor, it can be very taxing on you and exhausting. And so the fact that he's worked here for so long and has always been pleasant, and I've never received a complaint about him, so. Just keeping my fingers crossed that we can get someone just as good as him to replace him.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pays and is good, but the benefits are better.
All right. Any other old business, stuff that's been on here before? Commission update. I'm not a commissioner, but I know that they will be working heavily in budget season here. So you can follow that on the website when, hearings are, I believe there's times to comment throughout. There should be a breakdown of when all those meetings happen. I think they run almost entirely through all of November. I think they're here at some point each week, with different groups and everything. So
Yeah, usually the budget's is approved for the first meeting of December, correct?
I believe so, yeah. So this month coming up will be a lot of that. So by all means, check out schedules of, you know, when things are reviewed and everything like that. I think one of the big ones for myself and for Mark, we'll be pushing to see engineering and hopefully construction dollars on enclosing the top elevator lobby on the north with a clear structure. I don't know if anyone's drove by the stadiums, the new Champion Garage. That top level is kind of something we probably want to mirror, where it's essentially out in the open, you know, but glass or plexi box, whatever that stuff's made of. So I'm sure we might kick over to the downtown to see what they went through for that process or something like that. But I know that'll be one. Continuing with the modernization, changing to solid state starters and elevators. We took the main one out of service, and that one's done and behind us. Next one I'd like to take out is the one that takes you from Parsway to Washington. So we'll find what struggles come with that one as well, but at least it's not 6 floors of struggles, but it still is a major inconvenience if you're expecting it there when you get off the light rail or pull in as a permit holder down below. So we'll work through that if it's funded. So I'm not sure about service levels and what will or will not be funded. I know the trash collection was took a major uptick in costs, so that was a factor that I'm sure will be looked at, and other service levels may be adjusted. So we will see, but we'll have all that information in January. For what I think will be our last meeting together, I'm not sure. And tomorrow I will have information on the restructure. Maybe we'll use that and I'll flag you and say, hey, remember, if you have any thoughts on objectives, shoot back. So we'll play it that way. Anything else, other announcements?
Yeah, the one other capital item that we probably are looking towards is in 2024 is replacing the pay stations in the academy lot. So those are the first generation of what I think maybe they're actually the third generation of what we have now. So those are need to be replaced. So I hope they don't hear me talking about them.
And then they just go.
Yeah, exactly, and they're very, but, the city of Pittsburgh has similar machines, so if all heck breaks loose, there's a technician there who is,
Skilled enough to,
skilled enough that, well, most like he has an inventory of pieces, parts, and you know, it's easier to have someone with a van who has all the pieces, parts and go, is it this? No, it wasn't that, you know, was it this? Oh, finally, just a trial and error.
oh,
So
you're over there.
just,
Yeah.
so we always like to have redundancy in all our lots in case one is down. We afford them the ability to pay at the other. And we've actually are working, we've now brought in meter feeder for the lots. We're still working on them to pare down on the single space. There's been some programming issues that they're dealing with, but in the lot, you can pay with Park Mobile, Passport, or meter feeder. So we have 3 options in the mobile pay, so.
What do they get for commission or charge? I'm just curious, what are those?
So we'll get, it's $1 an hour. And then they get 25 cents as a convenience fee per transaction.
They just get a flat fee.
Yeah.
Any other announcements and a motion to adjourn? That's the way to go. Yeah, first from Brad,
Yes.
second,
Second,
okay. Thank you all. Something, Friday, tomorrow in your inbox.
Thank you very much.
thanks, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, same.
I know. I was talking to my guy, one of my employees, goes, it's supposed to be cold.